For this part, we have Erlene Alexander and Ryan Young. Erlene is from our Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and Ryan from our Aviation Affirmative Action Office. So Erlene, Ryan, take it ahead.
Thank you, Ryan. Next slide. So for this slide, very quickly, we want to show you that our priorities are what we focus on and how we meet our priorities through our standards. And right after integrity is diversity, equity, and inclusion. So it is important to us to lift up and uphold use of our minority and business-owned businesses and our SDVOB businesses. Next slide. So business and supplier diversity with ODEI and AAAO, we want to maximize opportunities available from minority women-owned businesses, enterprises, and service-disabled veteran-owned businesses. We want to promote diversity in our tenant business activities within the TCAP process. And promoting diversity also means using a diverse bank of the MWBE and SDVOBs. Also manage the diversity payment reporting process through B2G Now. Next slide. So our MWBE and SDVOB goals are 20% MBE, 10% WBE, and 3% SDVOB. So you'll notice here we'll say MWBE and SDVOB because those are two separate programs. And if you have a subcontractor that is a MBE and SDVOB, they can get credit for both. If you have a sub that is a WBE and SDVOB, they can get credit for both. But you cannot get credit for MBE and WBE. Next slide. So the submission process, you can start your MWBE or SDVOB participation as early as you want. You can start it even during the design phase or before design phase. Because if you get a minority business in your design phase, that will go towards your overall participation in your project. Start looking at your process, your scope of work, your work descriptions that you will need to have. Even, bring your GC on and talk about it with them, and try to get this in as early as possible. A lot of times what we do have as we go through this process is you'll submit the 3749D, and the contractors or the vendors listed on there are not certified by the Port Authority. All vendors on the 3749D must be certified by the Port Authority. And we have a database that you can look through. And if you need help looking through those databases for the vendors, you can always reach out to myself or Ryan Young, and we will help you look for subcontractors or your vendors. And we can also narrow down a list for you. Say you have, cleaning, and you want a specific type of cleaning, like deep clean or something like that. We can look to see if we can narrow down that scope. So it's very important that you start submitting this as early as possible. Next slide. So when you submit the 3749D, you will do that through the REO and Trimble, and we will get it, Ryan Young or myself, we will get it through Trimble, and we will review it and look for the vendors in our database, and also see if there are other areas of participation. Please note that for construction under 5 million for aviation, Ryan Young will look through those, and everything else I will review and meet with you over those. Next slide. Ryan, you want to take this one? Or
Sure. Thank you, Arlene. So this is an example of 3749D, the latest form. And I want to make sure that you do submit the latest form, which is a interactive PDF. So essentially, you want to make sure that you submit a fully filled out form. And I'm not saying that it has to be, if it's early in your process and you want to share it and get comment on it, and that's fine, but it needs to be filled out with, Ryan, do you think we can enlarge it? Thank you. So it needs to be filled out with all the pertinent information. So everything needs to be filled out, especially the contact information for the prime contractor, as well as information about the contact information from your vendors, your certified subs. Because once this is submitted, and it's your final submission and you're ready for it to be reviewed, we will reach out to the certified vendors to make sure that there is an agreement in order, whether that's a purchase order or a contract. We want to make sure that that's in place before it can get approved. Also, as Arlene said, they have to be certified through the Port Authority as MWB. I'm sorry, MBE, WBE, SDVOB, or they can be MWBE. So just keep in mind that if a firm is both minority and women owned, then the credit goes towards the MBE, Port Authority policy there. Also, you want to make sure that you check if the firm is a supplier. So with suppliers, 60% of the contract value or the purchase order value goes towards the credit attainment. So you can select as the fictitious firm Green Construction Co. Is a WBE and a supplier. The calculation is going to already go into place when you put their purchase order value, and it's going to be calculated by the sheet. So you don't have to do that on your own. But you just want to make sure that everything is, again, signed, filled out before you submit it, because if not, then it's going to have to go back and you're going to have to resubmit it, and that may take time. And also, one additional item is under the total, actually under on the right side, top column, where it says Port Authority contract goals, there's another line that says search our database for certified businesses. So if you were to click on that, it will take you to the Port Authority certified database. So as Arlene mentioned, through there, you can search for vendors that meet your needs, and then if you need any additional help, you can always reach out to us. All right, next slide. Okay, so these are the tenant prime contractor expectations when it comes to MWBE and SDVOB outreach. So essentially, you want to make sure you have a transparent process for pre-qualifying and selecting firms. So if there is a certain type of um, if there's a certain type of certification that all firms need to have within your own process before working with maybe a specialized scope of work, make sure that that's stated, not only in your initial uh, outreach to certified firms, but also if that's a situation where it hinders your ability to find firms within the database that have that specific certification, definitely make sure to note that in your documents. Uh, Another thing is to advertise these both design and construction opportunities locally, and that can be whether you go to outreach events, small business outreach events, you have some sort of pre-qualification platform on your website. You just want to make sure that you start early in outreaching to the certified diverse community. Okay. Also, again, I mentioned that you want to engage the Port Authority database. Another good tip, is to always record your efforts of outreach to certified firms. In the case that it becomes difficult to reach that 20% or 10% goal, you want to always have um, those notes to say that we reached out to various firms, we looked in the database, maybe there weren't firms that could meet our needed scope of work. You don't want to wait till the end where it's last second and you're itching to start the pre-con meeting, but you have no proof of reaching out to the database and then at least getting a few responses. So you want to always track what you do. Okay, I'll move down to, you want to conduct the business affairs with the certified firms in accordance to Port Authority's standards, including supplier code of ethics as well as prompt payment protocols. And that's something, the prompt payment protocols is measured in B2G, and we'll get to that shortly. All right, next slide. Okay, so this is our review process. So again, we'll only start to review fully formalized 3749D documents, and please do make sure that they are on the latest form. They'll be, once you submit through Trimble, we'll provide comment, and we can go back and forth if something looks off. We can make the comment, you'll see it, and you can upload a new one. That's the general process. Again, we do verify once the it meets the participation standards for the scope of work. We'll start to verify, as mentioned, and then you want to make sure that your certified team on your project, that they are aware that we're going to reach out to them. So they need to respond as soon as possible, because sometimes, you submit the plan and we reach out to confirm, and it takes the certified firm a while to get back to us to say, yes, we are participating on this project, or we are supplying goods or materials, and this is the value of our agreement. And so, if it takes a while, then of course that's going to draw out the time that we need to come to a decision regarding the plan. Again, if the submitted plan achieves or sufficiently strives to meet Port Authority participation goals, then we'll provide an approval through Trimble. And important note is, if you're asking for any waiver, it has to come with the significant good faith efforts. Again, you want to track any sort of outreach you've done, any conversations you've had with certified firms, to engage them about opportunities, because that's where, when it's going to come into play when you're asking for a waiver. And I know time is of the essence. So the earlier you start that process, the better it looks when we have to review. All right, next slide. And this is just a snapshot of the homepage of B2G, which is also the portal where you can search for certified vendors. So again, with this, you can filter based on the location, certification a firm may have or that you need, the commodity or work codes like NAICS or any other particular code you search for. But just make sure that when you filter for Port Authority certified firms. And again, I'll keep on saying, document all instances of outreach. Right, next slide. And I'll hand this back over to Erlene.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. So certification resources. If you know of any firms that can or are eligible for certification as a MBE, WBE, MWBE, or a SDVOB, you can give them this information. I know there's a recording of this and you will have the recording. So you'll be able to get this information from that recording, or you can always reach out to Ryan or myself. And the certification process usually takes about, I want to say 30 to 60 days if all the documents are in on time and correctly submitted. A lot of times the holdup is not submitting all the documentation or incorrect documentation. Next slide. So here is the eligibility criteria for the certification for MBE, WBE, MWBE, and SDVOB. As you see, the most important thing is that they're 51% owned by whichever category you want to be certified in. Next slide. And I believe this is you, Brian.
All right, I wasn't expecting to jump on so quickly again. The diversity compliance reporting. So this is done through B2G, which is kind of, I guess, a one-stop shop. And the thing about B2G is if a certified firm is certified through Port Authority, they have an existing B2G account. So they should be able to, they should have familiarity with this platform. In terms of the reporting process, once the pre-con meeting is completed, we create a contract in the system that monitors the payments for that particular TAA. So the Port Authority certified firms listed on the 3749D should already have an existing profile. And then certainly once the contract is created by either Arlene's team or mine, we will link the prime contact on the 3749D with this particular TAA in the system. So essentially, this person will start to receive notifications about monthly audits. So the reminders are sent through email. It can be done on on your phone or on a laptop. It's very speedy process if you have your your accounts nearby. Essentially, once the reporting period comes up and the platform sends an email to the prime to say, hey, did you pay this vendor this month? And whether you paid them or maybe the vendor isn't on the project just yet, you would just need to note that in the system. And if you did pay them, the date and the amount. Once that is confirmed by the prime, then the certified firm will get pinged with a notification to say, well, the prime has stated that you were paid this amount on this day. Can you confirm? And then they either confirm, or if there's a discrepancy there, notes can be be written, and we can hash that out. But essentially is a very quick process as opposed to the paper-based process that was in line a few years ago. So also within B2G, there are a lot of help videos that can show you how to tackle maybe some questions you have, and also always reach out to Erlene or I if you have questions. Right, next. And this is this is an example of what the platform looks like. So you would just again put in how much was paid for the month or not paid, and confirm, and put the date or no date, and then submit that. And again, the certified firm will then get a similar notification to confirm that amount. And it's pretty simple once you get started with that. It's just that sometimes you need to remind the certified firms to complete that process, because if I understand that the books may be different for different teams in terms of when payments are processed and things like that. But if it starts getting to like months where there are no confirmations, then that becomes an issue. So I would just say stay on top of it, stay on top of your team, your certified firms, just so it won't turn out a headache on the back end. Next slide.